I'm Catherine, 39 years old. I'm a full-time housewife and a mother of one child. I live with my husband Bob and our 5-year-old daughter now. I'm the middle child of 3 siblings. I have an older brother and a younger brother, but we're not that close. Maybe being the middle child is a bit isolating. Despite the gender difference, my brothers get along really well. Ever since we were kids, they were always playing in the mountains together, but I wasn't allowed to join in just because I was a girl. My older brother is 3 years older than me, and my younger brother is 2 years younger than me. Even though my brothers are about 5 years apart, they seem to get along, and I heard they live together since they became adults. Since I got married 10 years ago, I've been out of touch with my family, and I don't know what my brothers are up to. I've always felt alienated and lonely. I loved both of my brothers, so it was hard not being able to play with them. So I decided if I ever had kids, I would only have up to 2. In the end, it seems like I wasn't meant to be a mother, but finally, my daughter was born 5 years ago, and because of my age, I gave up on a second child. Now, I'm very close with Bob and my daughter, and I'm living a peaceful, everyday life. As for my brothers, I've stopped thinking about them in my daily life. Even if I heard they're still unmarried, I wasn't interested. Then, one day, my older brother got engaged. Her name is Marilyn, and she was his classmate when he was in elementary and middle school. I also went to my parents' house to say hello, leaving my daughter in Bob's care. As I entered the house, my parents were making a big fuss. They were preparing coffee and sweets, cleaning up the house, all because my brother was bringing Marilyn over, and they didn't want any slip-ups. I was roped into helping as well. My brother was over 40 and still couldn't get married, so my parents seemed happy to have been worrying all this time. My younger brother, who arrived before me, was complaining that he's the only single one left. But when my older brother entered the house with Marilyn, everyone celebrated grandly. I looked at the scene with somewhat cold eyes. It felt like something happening in a distant country that had nothing to do with me, and I couldn't sincerely celebrate. All the best to you, Mike and Marilyn. That was all I could manage, and I'm not even sure if I managed a convincing smile. As I was preparing the coffee, Marilyn came into the kitchen and asked if she could help. I declined with a smile. "You're our guest. Please have a seat." "But you know, Catherine, time is cruel, isn't it? You, who used to be so small, are now a lady of the house." Marilyn smirked at me as if she was plotting something unpleasant. "What do you mean?" "Oh, it's nothing. Just that I've never thought you, whom Mike always said was cute, were cute since you were small." Mike is my brother's name. I was a bit stuck for response, so I just nodded in agreement. "Is that so?" Marilyn said just that and then returned to the living room where everyone was. I don't know what she wanted to say, but I don't plan on getting along with my brother and his wife. Even if Marilyn dislikes me, I think it doesn't matter. About a month after that gathering, my mother said, "Come home for this year's reunion. I haven't seen Bob and my granddaughter in a while." So our family of 3 went to my parents' house. At first, my mother prepared coffee, Bob and my daughter greeted Marilyn, my father and brother lifted my daughter up high, and my younger brother patted her on the head, so my daughter was overjoyed. Marilyn also spoke to my daughter with a smile. Relieved by such a scene, I stood up to prepare for everyone's drink refills. While making coffee in the kitchen, Marilyn came by again. "Catherine, I don't want to see your face at our family gatherings. As a wife, you should be going to your husband's family gatherings." "Don't worry, I hardly have anything to do with this house. Even today, I was only called over by my mother." "Then please don't come over even if my mother-in-law calls you." I don't understand why Marilyn hates me so much, but I'm not interested in the woman who is going to be my brother's wife. They say the opposite of love is indifference, and this is exactly it. Whether I'm disliked or not, I didn't care. I've been treated like an unwanted person by my brothers, and my heart was worn out. I met Bob, gave birth to our daughter, and started to feel happy. But Marilyn probably doesn't understand my cold feelings. If you hate me, please don't talk to me. As I retorted that, Marilyn glaringly looked at me and returned to the living room. Since my brother's marriage, my mother started calling me home more often to unite the family, but I hadn't gone since the incident with Marilyn. I decided to keep out of it, thinking that as long as Marilyn doesn't make my brother unhappy, it didn't matter how she treated me. My brother got married in his 40s, and I didn't want to rain on his parade. We didn't meet frequently, and I thought it was okay to endure it when we occasionally met. I also told Bob about this.
Do you really want to become family with someone who hurts you?
Bob said, siding with me. It's okay. I wasn't close with my brother, but I still want him to be happy as a sibling. If it ends up with just me bearing it, then it's okay. Bob didn't seem convinced, but I was somewhat happy that he got angry for me. However, a call came to my phone after a while. It was from an unknown number, so I answered it suspiciously, and the caller was Marilyn. Oh, Catherine, how have you been? Marilyn, do you need something? Mike is so simple. When I said I wanted to be friends with you, he immediately gave me your number. Is that so? I had no idea why Marilyn would call me. Do you keep in touch with Mike? I answered while pretending to be calm, although I was flustered. No, I'm not. Are you lying? I'm not lying. Even if I badmouth you, no one believes me. How annoying are you? Did I do something to you, Marilyn? It's the worst to not realize it. Anyway, you've married, so stay out of this. Oh, and don't say I said this. If you do, I'll send some scary people I know to your house. I immediately hung up the phone, feeling chilled by Marilyn's words. What was that? I was unsure whether to tell my brother that he should call off the marriage with Marilyn, or to consult my parents first. Anyway, I was scared and my heart was pounding. At that moment, a hand was placed on my shoulder, and I was startled and my body shook. What happened? When I turned around, Bob was staring at me with a worried look. You're as pale as a ghost. When he said that, I realized for the first time that my fingertips were cold. It was a fear so intense that I could feel my blood running cold. Well, actually, when I told Bob about what just happened, he became visibly angry. What the hell is that? For now, just block the number, and let's report this to your parents or brother immediately. There's no way he can be happy marrying that person. But maybe she's a good person in front of my brother. I just need to stay out of it, I'm sure. Do you think that's the end of it? That woman threatened you, didn't she? She's not a decent person. If your Mike knew what she did to you, I'm sure. Bob's words made me angry. I get it, but why do I have to do something about it? I've been keeping my distance from my brother and younger brother for a long time now. If our 3-person household can stay intact, isn't that enough? Is that not okay? I was usually able to think calmly, but remembering how my brothers would exclude me and play without me as if I never existed, as if it was always just the two of them, caused all my past anger to explode. I knew that Bob wasn't the one I should be lashing out at. Suddenly realizing that, I apologized to Bob. I'm sorry, you've done nothing wrong. Then Bob hugged me tightly. You've been holding back a lot, haven't you? I'm on your side no matter what, Catherine. You can vent your feelings to me, but I think you should talk with your brothers. Hearing Bob say that, I felt a sense of relief in my heart. Perhaps because I felt a little more at ease, I decided to contact my brothers and arrange for a conversation just between the three of us. As it was quite late that day, I thought I would call them around noon the next day. However, I never ended up making that call to my brothers. I received a phone call from my mother. My brothers in Maryland had been in an accident. Apparently, my brothers in Maryland had been on a trip together for the past 2 days, and on the way back, they had been in a collision with a truck. I rushed to the hospital in a panic. Marilyn had only suffered minor injuries, but my brothers were seriously injured. By the time I arrived, the surgery had somehow finished, and my brothers seemed to have made it through. They were transferred to the ICU, and I was only allowed a short visit. I kept my distance because of the situation with Marilyn. But my mother, worrying about Marilyn, asked, "It must be hard for you to go home alone, Marilyn. You don't need to worry about anything at home. Why don't you stay with us for a while?" But Marilyn, with an unhappy look on her face, said, "No, thank you. I'll go home to my parents' house." "In that case, I'll drive you home." "No, I'm fine." And with that, she quickly left the hospital. "She must be upset. Poor thing. At least she's safe at her parents' house." Surely Marilyn was also shaken by the accident and was probably scared. However, after that, Marilyn never came to the hospital, and my parents and I visited frequently. At first, my brothers were in pain and couldn't move at all, but as time went on, they slowly began to get better. My brother's marriage to Marilyn was still in the consultation stage with the wedding hall, and the formal contract was yet to be made. Unable to reach Marilyn, my mother contacted the venue on my brother's behalf and explained the situation. Unable to discuss things such as reconciling with my brothers and the content of Marilyn's phone call, I visited the hospital many times. Although they couldn't move, they gave me a gentle smile when they saw me. About 2 months after they were admitted, I went to visit them alone and was about to open the door. I could hear my mom, my older brother, and my younger brother chatting inside.
"But, well, if something happened to me, I made sure the insurance money would go to Catherine. If Catherine is happy, then I'm content." Truly, I feel bad for Marilyn, but it was good we didn't invite Catherine. Marilyn seems to be uncomfortable around my sister. If it wasn't the case, we would have invited the whole family.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were always together, always treating me like an outsider.
That kid, when she was small, she used to imitate me and got injured. I am a man after all, so I've done dangerous things, but I can't let Catherine get hurt again. Plus, our sister, she's so serious all the time. It's hard to depend on someone who tries so hard.
At this, Mom laughed with disbelief. "You've thought that much about Catherine?"
That's not all. We both bowed our heads to Bob and pleaded with him to take care of Catherine. Ah, those were the days. I remember how surprised Bob was. It seems like he's taking good care of her, just like he promised.
Everyone was laughing and chatting about this, but I couldn't join in. Tears were streaming down my face. I couldn't lift my head. How much had I been unaware of my surroundings? There were so many people who cared for me, yet I thought I was always the odd one out. At that moment, I decided to backtrack the way I came, and I went to Marilyn's parents' house. When I rang the doorbell and introduced myself, a very disgruntled Marilyn appeared. "Could you please go visit my brother in the hospital? I heard you haven't visited him even once since the accident." Somehow, I managed to bow my head deeply as I asked her, but Marilyn flatly refused me. "You think I'm going to marry a man in that state? I told you a lot of things, but it doesn't matter anymore. I plan to discuss breaking off our engagement once everything has settled down. I'm glad we didn't get married." Marilyn, didn't you get engaged to my brother because you love him?" "Don't be silly. I work in insurance sales, and I approached him because I knew he had a high insurance policy. His salary seemed high too, but it was a misunderstanding. That man, he put you as the insurance beneficiary. Usually, you change the beneficiary to your spouse once you're engaged. When I convinced him of that, he said he'd change it to my name after we were officially married. I don't need a man with such injuries. So, you were telling me to stay away from home so my brother and I wouldn't meet? Yes, if he cared that much for his sister, I thought it would be a nuisance. But I won't say those things anymore, so don't worry. The accident completely killed my love for him, and the fact that I got injured too is the worst. The accident is partly your brother's fault, so he should compensate me for the emotional damage. Emotional damage? The one at fault for the accident was the other party. Shouldn't you be demanding from him? Of course I've demanded from him as well, but if he hadn't invited me on the trip, I wouldn't have been in the accident. He should compensate for that. Marilyn's comments ignited a furious anger within me, but I took a deep breath to calm myself down. If you consult a lawyer, you'll find that your demands won't go through. You don't know that? I do, but more importantly, about my smartphone. What? I don't care about your smartphone. I see. It's a bother to take notes, so my phone automatically records all phone calls. Like the threats you made. What would happen if I reported it to the police? I wonder. When I said that and chuckled, Marilyn shouted in anger. You, what the hell are you thinking? Recording is wiretapping. Wiretapping? What kind of crime is that? You're recording people's conversations without permission. There must be some crime. Just then, Marilyn's mother, who had arrived at the front door, yelled at me. How dare you record your conversation without permission? Hand over your phone now! Marilyn also glared at me with a disgusted look on her face. Ugh, I shouldn't have gotten involved with him. It's a relief not to be part of a family with a woman like you. I responded to the two of them with a smile. I'm glad, too, that you wish to break off the engagement. I wouldn't want a person with such a bad character around my brother. I said just that and left Marilyn's family home as if I was running away. After that, I immediately headed to the hospital room where my brother and younger brother were. Both of you, what I'm about to tell you might shock you, but I want you to know, so I won't hide it anymore. I let them hear the contents of the phone call I received from Marilyn. Just by that, both my elder and younger brothers were surprised and their eyes widened. I also started the voice recorder on my smartphone when I went to meet them earlier and recorded the conversation. When they heard it, my elder brother was infuriated first. That woman! So that's why she didn't come to visit. And the horrible thing she did to Catherine. Unforgivable. Even though my elder brother's leg was still healing from a complicated fracture, he started trying to get out of bed, so I hurriedly stopped him. Stop it! I didn't let you hear this because I wanted you to get angry. I just want you to give up on marrying Marilyn. Then my younger brother spoke up. I can't forgive her either. But sis, why did you go to such lengths for us? Today, I actually came to this room once, but you guys were talking with Mom, so I couldn't enter. Actually, I overheard you two talking about me. Sorry for eavesdropping. When I apologized, the two of them shook their heads together. So that's what it was. We're sorry for being distant. Since we took a cold attitude when you wanted to explore the mountains with us as kids, we didn't know how to interact with you after that. But the truth is, both of us always cared about you. Relieved by my elder brother's words, I broke into a smile. Thank you. I'm an adult now. I don't only need to be protected. I can protect you guys too. After that, my brothers, though they still had some scars, fully recovered and were discharged. Later on, my elder brother announced the termination of his engagement with Marilyn. Even though Marilyn unrepentantly demanded compensation, he refused, saying it was not justified for him to pay. Naturally, hiring a lawyer wouldn't result in any compensation being paid out. It seems Marilyn thought that her marriage to my brother was her last shot at happiness. However, she seemed to have misunderstood that if she claimed damages for the accident, she would receive a large amount of compensation, which is why she was so aggressive. Then my brothers told Marilyn's mutual friends about the awful things she had done to me. They even sent recordings of her threatening me. It seems this was far more painful for her than being reported to the police. I heard that Marilyn is now isolated, shunned by everyone around her. Since then, I've returned to my normal life. My heart is more at peace than before. I've become closer with my brothers, and we even go out for drinks together. It's as if we're trying to make up for the time we spent keeping our distance. Both my brothers have grown closer with Bob, and my daughter has warmed up to them as well. 2 years later, by some miracle, both of my brothers found their future spouses. My older brother is always preparing for his wedding, while my younger brother seems to want to continue dating for a while longer. Of course, there's no one threatening me, and we're on good terms with their parents. I hope we can continue to have this good relationship as in-laws. I think